Starless Mystery had a great idea. She said, why don't you invite your dad in to watch Missing 411, The Hunted, which he's never seen. I don't think he even knows who David Paulides is. And we'll get his take on it, and we'll discuss it, some of the cases. My dad's been a hunter for 70 years. And I thought, hey, that's a cool idea, so I'll give him a call. And I didn't actually expect him to say, let's do it. But he's like, yeah, sure. He wants to come for lunch, and we'll watch the movie, and we'll get his take on it. Metal detecting, lost treasures, right there. That's our other channel. I'm running a campaign right now, guys. Help Gary get it up. That's the campaign. Blame Gage, he named it. We want to get that subscriber base up to 1,000 so YouTube starts promoting us. We're at 433. I put out a call the other day on Unfrequented World, and like 50 of you guys came on over and joined, so that's awesome. Let's keep at it. We got to get to that 1,000. Season 7 is coming soon, and it's going to be explicitly uploaded. That channel, Metal Detecting Lost Treasures, only is going to feature Season 7 of Metal Detecting and Trekking with Stan. So get on over there and subscribe. Thanks, guys. All right, so Dad is here. I just want to talk to him very briefly about 411 Missing the Hunted before we get into this. Are you familiar with David Paulides' work?
Not really, no.
Okay, well, he's a cop, an ex-cop, who now investigates missing persons cases that are the strangest, unsolvable, things that are weird, and they only concentrate on cases where they don't think other people were involved. So guys that go hunting, this whole series that we're going to watch here is on hunters that go missing, okay? He's done a couple, 2 other videos. The newest one is UFO Connection, but that's not out yet. We will watch that one at some point. This is just on hunters, and seeing as you are a 70-year-old hunting guru, I guess, grew up hunting and fishing, let's get your take on this show. Do you think there's more to this, or do you think these guys just wandered off and got lost? As we go through the movie, we'll get some of your thoughts.
How many are lost?
All of them.
Yeah, I guess all of them is a pretty simple answer, but I just don't know. I mean, there could be some answers. Some people lost, not found. Some people drowned. But if there's many.
I'll just give you a little clue. So usually what happens, what makes these cases special is he has a bunch of things that he checks off. And for example, they'll call in 200 guys to search for a missing kid, or in this case, a missing hunter. They won't find anything in a 1 mile square thing. You know, 600 guys will traipse over this for 3, 4, 5 days. Then on day 7, they'll go back and there's the body lying right there in the middle of the field. And they say, you know, a dozen people have been by here. And this happens hundreds of times over and over and over. The other one is they find people without their boots on all the time. Their footwear is missing. Face down in a little bit of water, you know, 3, 4 inches of water in a creek or a puddle. That's another one that they find. He has a whole string of it, so there's more to it than just them going missing. We'll watch the movie before I go any further, because these cases will demonstrate to you exactly why he's chosen these, because there's something strange with each one of them.
Well, I'm the guy to talk to, because I realize there's a lot more to life than what we see. I'll guarantee it.
He believes, he knows.
I know for sure.
When you see hundreds of victims scattered throughout our national forests and national parks.
So that's kind of what we're getting into here, is the missing cases. You're saying there's a local case that fits that bill?
Redbridge. Bill Reed.
I've talked about Bill Reed on the channel. Exactly about that. He was an old fellow that said he was going fishing, I think.
That's the story I heard. He was going fishing. He hadn't been fishing for a long time. He was retired and he was going fishing. They found his truck and stuff, and
Never found him.
Never found. They checked the water. I think they had divers. They had probably dogs, everything. Never found hide nor hair of him.
Yep, I've mentioned him on the channel before, exactly because...
And he was a logger who knew every inch of that bush from back on Songus Road through any place in Redbridge, other places he worked too, but no, just not going to get lost, that's for sure.
No, and he was what, probably mid-60s?
Well, I think he was retired, so he was probably 65 to 70 years old, yeah.
Yeah, he knew the bush and everything about it, so... Yeah, I've mentioned him before because he fits this bill. Lily Pond Road, Thomas Messick. He's the first case. Age 82.
He loved the outdoors. He loved being in the woods.
So what we'll do is, after each one of these cases, maybe I'll just get your thoughts on it after we see what the case is.
Fair enough.
Okay, so Ted Messick, 82-year-old guy. They drove right to the lake. They're only spaced 100 yards apart. How many times have we done that? Hundreds, right? Where we've got guys on a watch, guys pushing. We know exactly what they're doing. There was dogs, there was divers, hundreds of searchers. What are your thoughts on that case?
Very strange. I don't know what the heck. I mean, if he'd walked and followed something strange, the dog would have smelled him and kept going. But they said it wasn't. Just who God only knows. Abducted, yep, you know.
And my question is, how far would an 82-year-old guy who's not in the greatest of health, from what they're saying, how far is he going to make it? Not very far.
No, and if they checked the pond, how far he was from the pond, I don't know. They put divers in there. He didn't go there and accidentally fall in.
And to get to the pond, he would have had to walk back past the 3 watches.
Okay.
Because he was the furthest one from the pond. So,
strange. And the noise they heard, God only knows. It's like a steel trap.
The guy didn't really explain it very well, this noise, but you know what? When somebody says that they heard something abnormal that is in the bush, knows the bush, there was something abnormal there. He's not doing a very good job of describing what it was.
Because they don't know. Just they're thinking back about whatever. Well, what did I hear? You know,
Yeah.
Everything's running through your mind because they're in shock. After a couple of days, they figured either they're going to find him. You know, even if the man had taken a heart attack and walked along was trying to delirium or whatever,
yeah,
they'd have found him.
These bump lines that they've set up and all this search gridding, that's pretty meticulous. And like I say, I know from hunting with you guys now, you guys have just turned 70, a lot of our hunting group. These guys don't go the distances they used to. If you go 500, 600 yards for me, that's about it nowadays, you know? I mean, that's a long jaunt for us to be circling each other in the bush. We're usually closer than that. So a guy who's 82 and not in very good shape, I just don't see how he got far enough away from anybody that they couldn't find him.
I mean, if something had seen something scared him, and they're only 100 yards apart, he would have hollered, screamed, or whatever.
He was an ex-Marine. There's nothing out there going to scare that guy.
If he's seen something strange, he would have hollered to the other guys. If they're only 100 yards apart.
What are you suggesting? A UFO here or something?
Could well be an abduction. I mean, I know there's lots of stuff in this world that I've seen. Walking the roads when you were a kid in Redbridge. I'll tell you, you walk the roads, I've seen so much stuff that was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Lots and lots.
I mean, this is broad daylight, so why nobody else would have seen, if that's the, I mean, there's so many strange things that could happen.
Even if a bear come up and got him, there'd be a mess all over. They'd be tore apart if they happened to sneak up behind him or whatever. I mean,
his gun, you would think, would be laying there.
You'd find the gun, sure.
If
Could have been an alien abduction. Who knows?
If something grabbed him, then either he would have fired shots or his gun would be there. So definitely a strange case. And now they're starting to talk about, you know, 10 days into the search for this guy, within 40 miles, another guy here has gone missing. So let's see what that's all about.
There could have been a squatch threw him over his shoulder, took off, but they would have found a squatch track because I believe that there's a lot of squatch in this world. I mean, they would have... No, some people don't believe, they think, but thousands and thousands of reported sightings.
There is a case from the first movie, which you haven't watched either. Missing 411 was the first movie. And the first case they talk about is a boy that got, well, he just went missing, abducted, or they don't know that he was abducted, but somebody came forward and said that a hairy man was carrying a kid through the bush. I forget the kid's name.
There was a story of a hunter or a trapper that Said he woke up that it was in his sleeping bag, and they woke up in a family of squatches, and he finally escaped there. I mean,
Bowman, yeah. I don't know if I believe that stuff, but
well,
all right.
How about the guys that were camping up in the hills, and all the cabin got thrown at their prospect, and they still named that something Squatch Hill or something. That's in history, whatever it is.
That's another famous
They
case.
fired shots left, right, and center. We're glad to get out of there and never went back.
Yeah, so here are some of the points at the end of this case that they list that David uses when he's categorizing these as abnormal. So dogs can't track. When a person goes missing, the dog should be able to track, right? Time of disappearance, was it near water? Water is a big one. He has a book series as well, and he talks about college students, a lot of them ending up in the water. They disappear strange, they walk away from their friends, leave the party early, and they're found floating in the water, or in bodies of water that get searched, and then a week later they're in that body of water floating there.
What draws them to that?
I don't know. And then they talk about geographical clustering, because this other fella here, Fred Drum, went missing, within 10 days of this guy. Both bushmen, farmers, hunters, they knew the bush. Very strange. Disabilities, he talks about a lot of guys having either being very smart or having a disability. Some kind of intelligence limiting, something. A lot of the kids have issues that disappear. Boulder fields, that's another one they talk about all the time. Granite and boulder fields. People seem to go missing in those areas and found, in places that they think they couldn't have walked to or hiked to. Little kids disappearing, and a little kid that's 2 years old found 20 miles away the next day through the bush, and they're like, a grown man couldn't walk that far. These are the kinds of things that he covers.
Canines can't find a scent or lose a scent quickly. This is an extremely common profile point that's probably in 95% of all the cases that have been documented.
So it must have gone up.
This isn't an indictment of search and rescue, but for some unknown reason, the victims are found
Or
in
down.
an area that had been searched maybe dozens of times.
So I just want to touch on that very briefly. The mentioning of water, to me, if you live here in Canada, there's so much water that anybody that goes missing is within, a mile of water pretty much. We have thousands and thousands of lakes here. So that one I almost dismiss because, and the clustering you could say as well, these guys are going missing in all of the most remote, dangerous places, the mountains, the true wilderness, like up here. Could you say that there's, a serial killer or something involved? Maybe there are in some of these clusters they talk about, right? Especially like up here, we had the highway there where all the native women were disappearing, and there was one, if not two guys that were eventually found to be abducting these women and killing them. So that could account for a small bit of it. But other than those two parts, the rest of his points are pretty strange, especially when you can't find a reason for why these people died. When they do autopsies and they say, well, we don't know what he died of. And what happens there, they always seem to put down that the victim died
from
hypothermia.
Hypothermia, yes.
Hypothermia is the one they
Extreme
always
weather
put
conditions.
down. So when they don't have any other
cause, they say, yeah, hypothermia did them in, sure.
That's what gets put on the death certificates is hypothermia.
It said there are many triangles that they found strange things happen. Alaska has a strange one. Not only the Bermuda Triangle that we used to hear about, there's many of them.
Well, Alaska also has the highest disappearance rate. And again,
That's
it's
the triangle
wild.
they're talking about.
It's wild, untamable country. And that's what I'm trying to say is it's the most remote places.
I hunted many, many miles from here. I've hunted Englehart, Trout Lake, to the Quebec border many times by myself, and I've never felt anything strange or whatever. But there are places where you can go where my father told me, he said, your compass isn't going to work because there's too much rock around.
Yeah.
And he was right. And a little bit of snow on, I turned around and followed my tracks back out. But
right up at Brian's camp in Temagami, I've had that. And I remember him telling me that other guys had that as well. There's just so much iron, I guess, in the rock.
On the Jocos, yeah. I've had that. Had to come back out and a little bit of snow on so I could pick through the track and bring my track back. But I never felt nothing bad or nothing uneasy. But your brother said one time when he was back behind the house way back in there, he said, I couldn't wait to get out of there. He says, when dusk was sitting, he said, there's something strange back there. He always talked about that.
Yeah, he still talks about that place. And he said he actually had to go back there and sit and confront it again and just sit there and say, you know what, I won't be bullied out of here. And I wonder about some of these guys, you know, is that, you know, do they get that feeling? Should we get out of here? Because I am in tune with that, and it is a real thing. You know, do they push their luck? Do they say, you're not going to bully me, and then they get whatever happens to them, abducted or whatever?
We're going to focus on 3 very unusual, very mysterious disappearances. The first being 75-year-old Audrey Kaplan disappeared in July 2014.
It's funny, we just talked about the hypothermia thing, because the next case here, this is what they're saying, that this woman, the cause of death, even though there was no physical evidence to suggest it, they put the cause of death as hypothermia.
And she was found in a little creek in a fetal position, no clothes on.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard before that people have died from hypothermia exposure and that they think they're burning up and they take their clothes off.
Yes, I've heard that. So
I don't know.
So you're supposing that this is a natural thing where she just had in her head that even though she was freezing, she felt like she was burning, and to cool herself off, she got naked and laid down in that little creek?
That could well be. And she being in good shape could walk a lot farther than what they thought. They don't take maybe a big enough area sometimes. Well,
that is forever. The case. I agree with that. Your statement right there hits on something I've said before and talked about on the channel. They don't give enough credence, other than the small children. Okay, when a child goes missing and he walks 20 miles in a day and the kid's 2 years old, okay, that I agree, that's impossible to do. But an adult, I mean little kids, like that can barely walk.
How do we know it's impossible?
True. But now the adult size, you know, they're talking about, oh, go 3-4 miles in the bush. I mean, we've gone days where we've gone 12 miles of bush, no trails. And I mean, yeah, it's a lot of work. You got to be in great shape to do it, but it can be done. And you're going to get up the next day and do it again if you don't get that moose or deer. Yeah. And you'll do that 14 days in a row.
And every day you got to go back if you're 100 and you just don't give up.
And I don't agree with some of the distances they talk about, that it was impossible for this guy to go this far. Like you said, I guess we don't know what is physically possible, right?
But if they found her, that could be she thought she was burning up. I don't know why they wouldn't find the rest of her clothes along the trail back. If they, you don't know which way she really came from.
It didn't say that they didn't find her clothes.
So they found some, and she would think she was burning up, took off her clothes, she was too hot, and laid down that water to cool down. Could be.
Now, my other problem with these cases like this is, how do they get separated? Like, I was saying to Dad, if we go for a walk as a family somewhere, my wife and kids or whatever, I don't let them get out of my sight. I don't let them get 50 yards away. If somebody needs to stop and tie their shoe, we wait for them. So it doesn't make sense. You know, the husband and wife are out mushroom picking. He just wanders away and lets her, you know, I don't know.
Just you get over here at 50 feet, 100 feet, and all of a sudden, I've heard of people getting turned around for a second, then they go the wrong way.
Yeah, especially when you're looking at the ground. If you're tracking an animal or something like that, I've said that before, it's easy to get turned around and disoriented as to which way you're facing. And I guess mushroom picking would be the same, because you're looking at the ground, you're going here, there, all over, your eyes are down here.
Did they get into some mushrooms that were magic?
Could be, I don't know. You're right, it says missing clothing. She's missing, yeah, if she took it off.
That involves this exact area. And that's 61-year-old Mel Nadell, who disappeared up in the wilderness, went up to Elk Mountain in the Santa Fe National Forest, elk hunting.
We've got a missing 411 case. How you doing in there? Okay, so he said it after the last case and I wasn't recording. He just said it again. The dogs tracked Mel right to his hunting blind and then nothing from there. So what are you suggesting?
He either went up or he went down if he didn't leave there.
So some kind of portal, or either alien abduction or some kind of portal you're suggesting?
something had happened. That's common knowledge. I mean, a lot of people don't believe that, but I know there's so much. I watch all kinds of strange evidence and stuff like that.
But what if the guy just walked to his hunting blind and walked out the exact same trail and got picked up by another truck? You know, when he got back out to his vehicle, could explain it too.
Okay, come back to the same trail, yeah. But yeah, okay, that could.
So we've gone from portal jumping, alien abduction to maybe a real world solution. The problem with that is you're not going to leave your hunting group, right? So my suggestion of him getting in another vehicle and buggering off, unless they abducted him, but these are all hunters. These are all armed guys, so that doesn't make sense either.
Where was he going? I mean...
And where would he be going? Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, if they wanted to rob the guy, they would just rob him. It's not like they're going to say, get in the truck. He's an old hunting guy, so it's not like a sex trade thing. You know, I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. I mean, what explanation? Why would you abduct a 60-year-old hunting...
No, there's things that happen in this world. You owe money to certain people that you don't pay back.
Yes,
okay, we're coming to get you, or somebody's got something against you, or...
Okay.
But it seems like he was happy with his wife.
A personal abduction of somebody that knows somebody, yes. Now we're talking realistic. Here they go. Now they're talking about what we just talked about.
Yeah.
And we hadn't seen this yet.
Really, he had to have gotten a ride out. He had to have been picked up or gotten a ride out there, I assume. If he was a mobile person and a hiking person, he could just be so far off.
Okay, so we know he didn't hike any further than that blind because the dogs didn't track him. But this guy just stated the exact two things that we said. He was either alien abducted or picked up by somebody else. So, you know, if there's one thing you guys need to know about my old man, and I get it too, you kind of know it if you watch my channel. I could be a detective. He could be a detective. We just have that steel mind trap. We break things down and... logical explanation, but we also believe in the other stuff that's not...
I believe it because it's happened. I've heard it, I've seen it. And there's a lot of strange things. And usually in my bedtime, I'll tell you, I woke up and no, I heard a word. I thought, oh, I'm just dreaming. Until I hear one word. Seemed to be coming out of the receiver for the TV. Oh, what? I did hear that. One simple word.
And it wasn't on.
No. And then I heard them, what woke me up one night, I thought somebody broke in my house. Well, I'd sit straight up on my bed. I had eyes like two saucers. What the heck? I'm sure it would have taken a bulldozer to move me. I don't know, something was loud, a voice, and I'm sitting right up there. A voice comes right through my room. A man's voice, but it was low. I could tell his man's voice, I couldn't make out a word it was saying. And I just sat there, and then finally after a while it went straight through my closet or straight out the wall. And I laid back down. It was 17 minutes after I shut the TV off and laid down. And I was kind of in that mode there when what the heck? And when I laid down, all I said to myself was, that's not the first time I've heard something around here. But I never felt anything bad. It always felt like it was okay, it was good.
Yeah, there's more than we can physically prove in this world.
On my mother's grave, whoa.
Okay, they're talking about the 3-shot rule here, and I want to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I guess if somebody's lost, you're firing 3, but I figure if they didn't hear it on the first one, why waste the next 2?
Well, my thought is kind of the same. That's a lot of shells to be shooting, especially if you're lost. Maybe you're going to be able to, if you're going to be there for a week, somebody coming for you, you might want those shells. Protection, or hey, there's a deer I need to eat, you know. I wouldn't want to waste all of my shots.
Maybe you got to pull the lead out of a bullet, get some powder to start a fire.
Exactly.
Pull it out with your teeth.
I think that's a really old school mentality, the 3 shots on the hour. For me, I would shoot 1 on the hour, every hour if I had to. And even then, I don't even want to do that. I want to save my shells if I need them.
Well, sometimes they say it's hard to tell where one shot comes from, though, too.
Yeah. I'm just not a fan of using my gun for a location.
And not everybody carries an extra box of shells like I do.
You know, this year, most of this year, we were not too far from the truck, and I had 2 boxes of shells with me, which is my standard practice, 24 shells in a box. I was actually leaving a box in his truck every time I got out because it is heavy. It's extra stuff to carry. You know, so it's... not realistic to expect somebody's going to carry. You'd be good for a few hours if you're going to fire 3 shots every hour, but it's not a realistic help, I think.
No, and I'll tell you, people don't think about that, trying to start a fire. Pull the lead out of a shell, put the powder down. And then if you got a lighter with that, say that, at least it'll flash, it'll go.
Yeah. Aaron Hedges, this one is a pretty cool case. So what do you think of that?
Strange. I don't know what happened.
What
did he fall and hit his head? Wasn't thinking right.
Well, they didn't mention that there was any damage to the skull, so.
No.
But I mean, I guess you could concuss yourself and not have. Hard to say. There was something. You're right, because it's almost like he stopped and he enjoyed a drink when he realized, I can see the houses down there. I'm going to be okay.
Did he see those houses?
Well, they said
was it dark at night when he was there? But if he sat down, you think he would have rambled on and just dropped instead of stopping for a drink?
If he was rambling, right. So the stopping and having the energy drink, and that to me says conscious thought of, okay, I'm going to be okay. I can take the time to, maybe I'm wrong, but.
Well, none of us know. It's just strange.
This one isn't as strange as the guys that just disappear and they don't find.
Well, exactly.
But there's still a lot of things wrong with this case in terms of the guy being an avid outdoorsman, knowing the area, all these things, still having his gun with him, still having food and drink and all of that. But yeah.
Carried his bow.
You know, and that's what they say. Oh, well, how come he didn't drop this or that? Well, you know what? You and I would be the same way. I'm going to keel over and die before I leave my gun behind on the trail. I'm sorry. I'm not leaving my stuff. My stuff is staying with me because it might help me. Unless I'm not thinking right. That's the only way. And I've always said on the channel, I'll say it again, guys, I'll never take my boots off. If they find me and my boots are missing, you know somebody got me. Those aliens got me or something.
And he was carrying his bow, and it was a pistol that was in his pack.
Yes. I mean...
Where we are here in Sonora, you see the remnants of the 1800s in just about every place. It's an old mining town.
Are you familiar with the Sierra Sounds? You ever heard of that?
Nope.
That's what these are called, and it's...
Just heard those are Squatch calls, that's all.
Pretty much that's what they think it was, Squatch calls.
But I'm hearing different things from what I've heard before.
Yeah, well, that was the hunters mimicking.
Yeah, mimicking, but they were mimicking what they'd heard.
You'll hear more. Samurai chatter, they call it as well. Sounds like chimpanzees.
Talk about maybe having to shoot a way out. You're just sitting there, all of you are kind of petrified. You're just waiting for the walls to break open and something reach in there and grab you.
I've seen orange and I've seen blue. Have you ever seen an orb?
Yeah, but only small ones.
Yeah, like the ones I saw were...
White ones, and somebody like that. I seen them along Highway 63 towards the swamp. Right off the highway.
Well, see, now you said swamp and everybody's going to say, well, that's swamp gas.
No, well, it's kind of a... Well, so we were told, I think there was an accident there years ago, and I used to look at that.
Yeah, well...
I was back on the lake one time, Turtle Lake. Me and Pete Langell and Dad. And there was a light coming down out of the sky, just like a beam coming down on us. At night. And then I saw a barbecue.
Yeah, you've told me about the... We've heard about the barbecue.
No, well, basically that's what you could say it was. Had it's like 3 legs underneath, say, an old coal barbecue that wasn't very big, charcoal barbecue. It had a green light underneath, and it was only 100 feet in the air, if that, over top the car. Look at that! On Songus Road, come right across. And it wasn't very high. I mean, you could see the whole thing like that.
See, that description to me reminds me of something that would have existed in the 50s, like a man-made technology, right? Like you wouldn't think alien advanced spaceships.
No, but it come right over that highway, and it was like that big around with 3 legs down the green light.
Was it making any noise?
Never heard no noise.
Was there any smoke or fire?
No, this was in the evening. It was dark. We seen that come right over. Like, what the heck?
Okay, and the last case they're going to talk about here is a woman who sees something almost like a predator in the bush, where it's like a camouflaged. It's pretty cool.
It's important to
Off
note
of the
this isn't a
Schwarzenegger
connection to
movie,
missing.
Predator.
Yeah.
It's simply an odd event that's worth
Doesn't
looking
surprise me.
into. And it's associated
What's around
with
us every day? We don't know.
There's other people that have videos online I've seen too where they've captured something. You see something moving there. It's not defined. Is that a real thing out here in the woods? Is that what's getting people?
the
Who knows?
smartest people I've ever met.
Who knows? From Skinwalker Ranch on down to Redbridge.
Well, that's weird. I mean, you could say that whatever image is captured is weird, but when it actually changes the physical megapixels of the camera, dimensions of the photo that's recorded, that is weird. That's evidence right there.
Absolutely.
You ever seen anything strange like that in the woods?
Can't say I have. I've been there on windy days, all alone when trees were starting to come down and you had to move. And I spied something moving, but what it was
Not a predator.
no. And I lost him looking at him. It was a fisher was coming down there. No, and then another time I seen a small cat too.
All right, there it is. There's your intro to Missing 411. What do you think?
A lot of strange things. You could put some down to people becoming sick and out in the weather and stuff like that and lost. Disillusioned, but then you wonder why did they carry all their stuff? And stop and have a drink here and there and within sight of buildings and that. Who knows how sick they were.
Yeah.
Just rambling on by then. Other ones, when people just disappeared off a rock and 100 yards away, there's other people, they were hunting together, the old gentlemen. Nah. Either went up or went down, especially when the dogs can't track them. Like,
Yeah.
something's funny.
Now, there's 1,200 plus cases, they say, that they've investigated at the end of this movie. So it's common, these things that these case points that they keep bringing
common.
up. You know?
I mean, they got cases of alien abduction. You got where cattle is mutilated and stuff's going on all the time. Hey, look, there's who knows who's going to abduct who and do a few research on you, whatever. Look at the triangle. The hundreds of people missing off boats. They never found any of them.
Yeah.
Just floating around. I mean, there's a lot of strange stuff in this world that we don't understand. And it just leaves me baffled for sure because I hunted lots and fished lots by myself and with lots of people, you included, for many years.
Yep.
And I never, ever, well, we've been lucky. I don't, never even thought of something being over there. Just, keep on going.
Well,
and come
that's the
back.
problem. You watch a show like this and now you think about that.
Absolutely think about that. And I have seen a lot of things in the sky and whatever over the
They
years.
always say first or last in line, eh? It's the guy on the end that disappears. If you go out in a group and you're hiking down the trail, you want to be in the middle somewhere, eh? Just for future reference. So, any interest in coming back and doing the first movie? Because there is, this was actually part 2.
Oh, for sure. I come back. There's so many things that I believe in, and I can't understand why people don't. But
What do you think?
entitled.
Was it entertaining? Did you?
Absolutely. I mean, it just keeps you riveted right to the screen because, I mean, what happened to these people?
Exactly, yeah. It's the mystery, and, well, you feel for the ones that are left behind, the family saying, what happened to these people?
I've seen other things on strange evidence and stuff like that, and whatever, the guy was skiing across, and all of a sudden, there's nothing there. It just stops. Where did he go?
Disappeared, yeah.
I mean, the other people were with him. It wasn't like they came to look for him a couple days later. They were there.
Yeah. No, there's some strange stuff. So, all right, guys, that's it. That's our Missing 411, The Hunted kind of live review. And we'll get the old man back and we'll do the first one, Missing 411. And when the UFO connection comes out, which I haven't seen yet, maybe we'll watch that one together.
Oh, we definitely will.
Thanks for joining us.
Stay out of the woods.